The day the sky cried fire. No one expected the end to begin on a Tuesday. The sun rose like it always did. People went to work, children laughed on school buses, and news reporters talked about the weather. But by noon, everything changed. The sky cracked open. First, there was a sound, like thunder, but deeper, heavier, as if the earth itself was groaning. Then the clouds began to burn. Red lights appeared above every major city. Some thought it was an eclipse. Others thought it was a drill. No one was ready. Giant ships, smooth and silver like liquid metal, came down from the clouds. They didn't make a sound when they moved, but the sky behind them screamed. Fire trailed behind the ships as they entered the atmosphere, lighting up the air like a second sun. People pointed. People screamed. People ran. Within minutes, the power went out across the planet. Phones died. The internet disappeared. Military satellites were gone. Countries couldn't talk to each other. Even radios turned to silence. And then the message came. A strange language filled every screen that still worked. Then it changed to English, Chinese, Arabic, all human languages. The voice was cold, robotic. This is not war. This is cleansing. Surrender and die faster. No demands, no negotiations, just death. In New York, chaos filled the streets. Cars crashed. Buildings caught fire. People cried for help, but no one was listening. In the middle of all this, a young man stood still. His name was Corporal Mason, only 24 years old. A soldier, but not a famous one. Just a tech guy in a small army base. He wasn't brave. He wasn't strong. But he had something no alien could understand. Instinct. Mason watched the sky as the ships moved. He noticed something strange. They didn't shoot everything. Only the moving targets. Tanks, planes, soldiers running. But hospitals, schools, they were left untouched. He whispered to himself, "They don't attack what they don't see as a threat." Mason ducked into an alley. His radio buzzed for a second, then died. He was alone. Around him, the city was falling. Skyscrapers burned. Smoke made it hard to breathe. People rushed past him, screaming, pushing, trying to get away. But there was no way left. One ship hovered low over the ground. A blue light scanned the area. Anyone caught in it vanished. No blood, no body, just gone. Mason stayed still, hiding behind a broken bus. He held his breath. The light passed over the bus, but not him. They scanned for movement, he thought. He started to crawl, slow, quiet. Every sound felt loud. His own breathing scared him. But he made it to a broken gas station. Inside, he found a few survivors. An old man, a woman holding a child, a teenager with blood on his shirt. They looked at Mason. "Are you military?" the old man asked. "Not really," Mason replied. "But we need to stay low and not move unless we have to." The teenager looked out the window. "They're killing everyone." Mason shook his head. "No, not everyone. Just the ones fighting back. Maybe we can use that." They waited in silence. Outside, the city died slowly. More ships came. More buildings fell. More people vanished. It felt like the world had ended. But Mason's mind was racing. "They didn't come to talk," he whispered. "They came to clean. Like we're dirt to them. Like we're just in the way." He looked at the old man. "Do you have a phone?" "Battery's dead," he said. Mason opened his bag, pulled out a small device, military tech used for training. Not strong, but it had one function: send a signal. "I'm going to make noise," Mason said. The woman stared. "What?" "They like silence. They control everything. But what if we mess with that?" He powered on the device and pointed it at the sky. It beeped once, then twice. Then it sent out a sharp, high-pitched sound. Nothing happened. Then one of the ships stopped. It didn't move, didn't scan, just froze. Mason smiled. We made them blink. The old man looked at him. What do we do now? Mason stared out the broken window. Now we learn how to punch back. Outside, the sky was still red. Smoke and fire filled the air. But for the first time since it all began, there was a flicker of hope. Because one human had seen something the aliens missed, and the war had only just begun. One human, one idea. Mason didn't sleep that night. He sat inside the broken gas station, his back against the wall, staring at the sky through a cracked window. The stars were gone. Only the red glow of alien ships filled the night. The world he knew had ended. Beside him, the child cried softly in her mother's arms. The old man whispered prayers under his breath. The teenager, whose name was Rafi, sat quietly, holding a bent metal pipe like a sword. They were strangers, brought together by fear. Mason checked his small signal device again. Still working. The strange beep he had sent into the sky hadn't destroyed the alien ship, but it had stopped it, even for a second. And that second meant everything. The next morning, they moved. Mason led the group through back alleys and empty shops, using shadows to hide. He studied the alien patrols, how they moved, how they scanned. Their patterns were perfect, too perfect. Every 33 seconds, the blue light passed. Every 9 minutes, a drone swept overhead. Humans were messy, but the aliens weren't. They were cold, clean, precise. They didn't expect mistakes. They didn't expect chaos. They expect us to panic, Mason told the group. So let's not. On the third day, they reached a ruined university. Smoke rose from half the building, but the basement was untouched. Inside, Mason found something unexpected. A survivor lab, powered by an old backup generator. Books, radios, computers, all offline, but still there. And someone was hiding inside. A woman, in her 60s, short gray hair, thick glasses, and a coat too big for her. She pointed a broken piece of metal at Mason like a weapon. "Stop there," she shouted. Mason raised his hands. "I'm not alien." She narrowed her eyes. "Prove it." Mason smiled. "Okay, what's 2 + 2? 4. "Wrong," he said. "It's survival. And we're gonna need your help." Her name was Dr. Lena Rowe, a retired military scientist once famous for building communication systems in war zones. Now she was just a tired woman with trembling hands, but her mind was still sharp. She listened to Mason's story, the signal, the freeze, the pattern. Then she said one word, noise. Mason blinked. "What?" "That's what they can't handle," she said. "Noise. Randomness. We trained machines to understand chaos. But they didn't. They learned to avoid it, control it, clean it. They need silence to win." Mason nodded. "So if we give them enough noise, we make them crash." They worked for hours, digging through wires, batteries, anything they could find. Rafi set up broken speakers on the roof. The old man found an ancient ham radio. Lena pulled up a dusty file on her computer labeled Human Chaos Signals. Prototype. "Never worked before," she warned. "But maybe now's the right time." The goal was simple: create a signal so messy, so random, so human, it would confuse alien systems. The first test was small. A local broadcast using overlapping human languages, static, music, and heartbeats. They sent it into the air. Nothing happened. Then one of the alien drones flying nearby wobbled. It turned mid-air, jerked like a puppet with a broken string, and crashed into a tree. Rafi's eyes went wide. "Did we do that?" Mason smiled. "We just made them stutter." Within a day, the signal spread to nearby survivors. Dr. Lena gave instructions through battery-powered radios. "Do not fight. Do not shoot. Just make noise. Bang pots. Scream. Sing. Be human. Groups lit bonfires on rooftops. Children screamed old rhymes. Grandmothers banged spoons on buckets. Even dogs howled through abandoned towns. And slowly, the perfect alien machines began to lose rhythm. A scout ship miscalculated and hit a building. A patrol beam flickered out early. Their pattern, their perfect, was breaking. Mason stood on the roof that night, watching it all. "We don't need weapons," he said. "We just need to be us." But the aliens were learning too. On the 5th day, one of their ships changed direction, headed straight for the university lab. It didn't follow the usual scan cycle. It didn't pause. They had noticed. Dr. Lena panicked. They've adapted. Mason looked out the window. The ship hovered in the air, silent, but deadly. A blue beam began charging beneath it. He had seconds to decide. "Rafi," Mason said, "take the others. Go to the river. Follow the sewer lines. What about you? I'll give them something to chase." He ran to the signal tower and cranked the noise up to full. Feedback screamed across the sky. The ship turned toward him like it could hear his heartbeat. But Mason was ready. "Come on," he whispered. "Let's dance." The ship fired. The tower exploded, but Mason had already jumped. He landed hard on the street below, rolled, and ran into the smoke. Behind him, fire and metal fell like rain. The aliens followed the signal, not the man. He smiled, bruised and bleeding. "You want silence," he muttered. "But Earth is loud." As he escaped into the darkness, a new thought grew in his mind. If one signal made them shake, what would happen if we sent that signal into space? Maybe the whole alien network could be infected. Maybe their entire system could crash. But he needed help. And there was only one place left that might have the tech to do it. The old army base. He whispered to himself as he ran through the shadows. One human. One idea. Let's see how fast you fall. Cities burn, but so do hearts. The city once known as home was now nothing but smoke and ash. Flames danced on rooftops. Windows were shattered. Streets cracked open like old wounds. The air was thick with dust and fear. And yet, something strange was happening. Humans were still alive. Not many, but enough. They didn't have ships. They didn't have weapons. They had pots, radios, hammers, and their own loud, unpredictable hearts. And for the first time since the invasion, the aliens were slowing down. Mason limped through the ruins. His arm was burned. His leg was bruised. But his eyes were sharp, scanning the sky. He had escaped the blast at the university lab, but barely. Now he had one mission: reach the old army base on the edge of town. But time was short. The alien ships were changing. No more scanning in patterns. Now they moved like predators, watching, listening, reacting. They had begun to learn. In the basement of a broken library, a group of survivors huddled close. A teenage girl named Naya tapped wires together, trying to fix a radio using only batteries and chewing gum. She was small, clever, and angry. "We can't just hide forever," she whispered. "We need to fight." Her grandmother shook her head. "We fight by staying alive." But Naya wasn't listening. She had picked up a strange sound, a scrambled voice repeating over static. Noise, signal, base, west side. Mason's voice. Naya's eyes lit up. "He's out there," she said. "He's alive." At the same time, far across the burning city, a prisoner transport moved through the ruins. Humans were locked inside, resistance fighters caught by the aliens. Among them was Joseph Hahn, once a school teacher, now a quiet leader. He had seen many die. His own brother had vanished in a blue beam just days ago. And yet, as he sat in the back of the humming alien truck, he still whispered stories to the others. "They think they broke us," he said, "but they only woke us." Suddenly, the truck jerked. An explosion. The side blew open. A group of survivors, wearing gas masks and covered in soot, had ambushed the transport using homemade bombs and stolen tools. Joseph coughed, eyes wide, as a young woman held him up. "Who are you?" he asked. She smiled. "Rebels." They had no name, no flag, but they had a purpose. Rescue, regroup, resist. Back near the city's heart, Mason reached the edge of a burned hospital. A huge alien drone stood nearby, scanning. But something was wrong with it. It twitched, buzzed, moved in jerks. Mason looked up. From a window above, a child was banging a metal tray with a spoon. Bang, bang, bang. Random rhythm. The drone shook, made a strange sound like static, and fell from the sky. Mason smiled. "We're everywhere now," he whispered. "And we're loud." Inside the ruined hospital, he met an old friend, Sergeant Royce, thought to be dead. His leg was missing. His face was scared, but he still had fire in his voice. "They burned my house," Royce said, "so I burned one of their scout towers with it." They laughed, even with tears in their eyes. Royce had survivors hiding in the hospital basement. Nurses, old soldiers, kids with slingshots. They were scared, but not broken. Mason shared his plan. "We get to the base. We find the uplink tower. We send the human chaos signal into orbit. If we can reach the alien network, we can break it." Royce nodded. "How many do we need?" "As many hearts as we can find." They moved at night, sticking to shadows, helping other survivors along the way. Each person who joined brought something different: a song, a noise, a memory. Every footstep was a beat in a growing rhythm. But the aliens responded. The city shook as 3 new ships landed, larger than the others. They didn't scan. They didn't speak. They hunted. One by one, human groups were attacked. Entire buildings were vaporized. Rebel bases were discovered and destroyed. Naida's group was found, but she didn't scream. She held up her radio and played a loop of her grandmother's voice, saying random numbers, jokes, and lullabies. The ship paused, just long enough for the rebels to escape. Naya ran, laughing, tears on her face. "You can kill buildings," she shouted to the sky, "but not memories." As morning came, Mason's group reached the base gates. It was surrounded by silence. No drones, no patrols, no fire. That scared him more. They pushed open the broken gate and stepped inside. Dust, bones, empty screens. Then they heard it. A voice. Robotic. Alien. Human activity detected. Uplink blocked. They had been expected. And deep inside the base, something had been left behind. A trap. Mason turned to his people. "They know we're here. They're watching." Rafi raised a crowbar. "Let them watch. We're not here to hide." Mason looked at the tower in the distance. Tall, cracked, but still standing. "We go in. We finish this." Joseph nodded. "For the cities that burned." Royce raised his fist. "For the hearts that didn't." And together, the last hope of Earth walked into the lion's mouth. Not with fear, but with fire. The trap they didn't see. The army base was quiet. Too quiet. Mason hated that. He had seen war zones before. Noisy, messy, loud with pain and courage. But this silence, it was heavy. Fake. Like someone had painted it over something darker. His boots crunched softly on shattered glass as he led the group through the gate. Above them, the comms tower leaned like a broken tree. It looked dead, but it might still work, if they could reach it. "Stay close," he whispered. Sergeant Royce rolled beside him in a makeshift wheelchair. His shotgun rested across his lap. "Feels like a ghost town." "No," Mason said. "Ghost towns don't breathe." Inside the main building, everything looked untouched. Dust on tables, old coffee mugs. One still had dried lipstick on the rim. Rafi picked up a photo from the wall. Soldiers, smiling, holding flags. He turned it around. 3 years ago, he read. Just 3. And now look at this place. Don't look, Naya said behind him. Just move. They reached the control room. The door was open. Too easy. Inside, computer monitors lined the walls. Most were dead, but one blinked softly, green text on black. Dr. Lena's voice echoed in Mason's memory. If you can get into their network, send noise, chaos, human heartbeats, music, language, anything unpredictable. Mason stepped toward the console. He tapped a key. The screen turned white. A countdown appeared. 010. 09. No, 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 Mason shouted, stepping back. Rafi pulled a wire. 08. Too late. A wall opened, metal unfolded like claws. From the shadows stepped a creature none of them had seen before. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't a drone. It was something worse. A mimic. Part machine, part flesh, and wearing the face of a human soldier, a stolen face. The thing smiled, but its eyes were wrong. Flat. Empty. Target. Mason, it said in a glitchy voice. Royce fired. The shot hit it in the chest. But the mimic didn't fall. It moved too fast, too smooth, like a puppet on invisible strings. Run, Mason yelled. They scattered. Outside, more walls opened. Mimics poured out. Some looked like missing family members. Others wore military uniforms. But they all moved the same. Fast, without blinking, like nightmares wearing human skin. The base had not been abandoned. It had been turned into a trap. Mason ran, leading Rafi and Naya through a hallway filled with smoke. Rafi shouted, "Why do they look like us?" "Because they studied us," Mason said. "And now they're trying to use us against ourselves." Back in the control room, Joseph Hand stayed behind. He stared at the signal machine. The countdown had reset. 0:59. 0:58. "I can buy them time," he whispered. He picked up the radio mic and began speaking. Not in code. Not in military speech. He spoke from the heart. "If you can hear this, we're still here. And we're not quiet anymore. They'd want us to be afraid. But we have something they don't. We remember. We sing. We cry. We fall in love. We make mistakes. And we don't shut up. Come find us. Make noise. Be human. We're not done yet." And then the mimic entered. Joseph didn't scream. He looked it in the eyes and said, "You can't mimic what you don't understand." He pulled the final lever. The room exploded in light. Outside, the ground shook. The mimics paused. For the first time, they hesitated. Rafi turned. "Was that?" Mason's voice cracked. "Joseph." He had sent the signal and paid the price. But the noise had reached the tower. At the top of the comms tower, the light blinked red, then green. The human chaos signal was broadcasting. Not just across the city, but into space. Millions of lines of random human language. Laughter, crying, whispers, songs, all playing at once. Messy. Confusing. Beautiful. Satellites around Earth picked it up. Alien networks picked it up. And something strange began to happen. Hundreds of alien drones in the sky froze midair. Some began to spiral, their systems crashing. Even the giant mothership above the ocean flickered. Inside alien control rooms, warnings screamed in unreadable languages. Symbols flashed. Unknown NPQDETCTED. Error. They didn't understand human noise, and now they couldn't stop it. But victory wasn't free. In the smoke and chaos, more mimics came. Faster, angrier, desperate. Mason and Naya fought back to back. Rafi threw a firebomb made from cleaning fluid and batteries. But they were outnumbered, until a horn blared in the distance, then another, and another. From every corner of the city, survivors arrived. Banging drums, honking cars, carrying radios on their shoulders, playing static and war songs. A grandmother banged a gong made from a broken sink. A child played a flute. Someone shouted poetry into a megaphone. It was a parade of noise, of rebellion. And the mimics stopped moving. They twitched, staggered, and then they collapsed, one by one. Mason stood among the ruins, bleeding but smiling. The signal was still going strong, but he knew it wasn't over. He looked up at the sky, where the mothership still hovered. "You built a trap for us," he whispered, "but now you're caught in ours." He picked up Joseph's radio. Next stop, space. When humans become the weapon, the sky wasn't red anymore. It was quiet, dark, like the world was holding its breath. The signal had reached the stars, but the war wasn't over. Not yet. Mason stood near the wreckage of the old army base, his body bruised, his face marked with ash and grief. Beside him lay Joseph's burnt radio, still crackling with faint voices, human voices. Music, laughter, crying, prayers, noise. It was working. But the alien mothership, the largest, the oldest, the one that had sent the others, was still up there, untouched, observing. It hadn't moved in hours. But that made it more dangerous, like a lion watching before it strikes. "They're not reacting," Naya said, pacing. "They're waiting." Mason nodded. "They're trying to adapt again, to block the signal." Rafi sat on the ground, wrapping his injured arm. "Can they do that?" Mason looked up at the sky. "Not if we get inside them first." Dr. Lena's old files had a plan. A virus. Not a human sickness, but a digital code built from unpredictable data. Music with no rhythm. Sentences that made no sense. Overlapping languages, sounds of crowds, baby laughter, thunderstorms, street noise, animal cries, all mashed together. No machine could process it. The code didn't destroy. It overloaded. It made perfect systems drown in confusion. But the virus needed a carrier. Someone to take it up. Someone who could walk into the lion's mouth. Someone who could smile as they burned. Mason stared at the file on the old military laptop. The virus sat there, quiet, waiting. Naya read the warning at the bottom. Note: direct neural exposure may cause sensory collapse, memory loss, or death. She looked at Mason. "You're not thinking." "I am," he said softly. "No," she snapped. "You're not a weapon." Mason gave a tired smile. "We all became weapons the day they landed." Royce limped over, his new metal crutch clanking with each step. "If you go up there, you won't come back." "Then make it worth it," Mason said. "Keep the signal alive down here. If they block it, find another way." Naya's eyes filled with tears. "There has to be someone else." "There isn't," Mason whispered. "The virus needs a human mind to hide in. A real, living brain. One full of emotion, confusion, memory, something they can't decode." He looked at her. "I'm not dying. I'm becoming noise." They found the last working launch pod buried under rubble, an emergency escape capsule once used to leave satellites. It was cracked, but fixable. It could hold one person. Just one. While the others worked on repairs, Mason sat alone, holding an old photo of his mother. He hadn't seen her in years. Didn't even know if she was still alive. But he remembered her voice. She once told him, "Even stars are born in darkness." He closed his eyes and let the virus upload into the neural chip at the base of his skull. Instantly, his brain felt like it was vibrating. Sounds poured in. Children shouting. Waves crashing. Drums beating. 1,000 voices in 1,000 languages. His hands shook. He almost blacked out. But he held on. As dawn broke, the launch pod was ready. Rafi handed Mason a small transmitter. "This will keep the signal alive even if something happens." Mason took it and nodded. Naya hugged him tightly. You better come back with a story. He smiled. I'll come back as one. The pod launched. The sky opened once more. But this time, it wasn't alien fire. It was human fire rising upward. Mason watched the earth shrink below him. Cities, rivers, mountains, all still burning, all still fighting. His heartbeat echoed in his ears. Fast, loud, human. The mothership loomed ahead, black, massive, like a sleeping god above the planet. As the pod approached, its scanners activated. Unknown signal detected. Identify. The virus inside Mason pulsed. He whispered, I'm no one. Just a mistake you can't erase. The ship opened. It let him in. Inside the alien mothership, everything was silent. No control panels, no lights, just a cold, dark hallway that stretched into forever. Mason stepped forward. His boots echoed. The virus buzzed in his mind. Flashes of color, broken memories, music playing backwards. He passed a wall made of glowing symbols. They shifted when he walked near, trying to read him, understand him. They couldn't, because Mason wasn't logical. He wasn't clean. He was human. In the heart of the ship, he found it. The core. A massive sphere floating in the air, pulsing like a heartbeat, but too perfect, too quiet. He stepped closer and activated the transmitter. The virus jumped. Into the ship. Into the core. For a second, nothing. Then the lights began to flicker. One by one. The symbols on the walls glitched. Alarms rang in broken tones. The ship spoke, its voice sharp and cracking. Error. Error. Unknown pattern. Unknown input. Unable to clean. Unable to adapt. Mason fell to his knees. His head burned. He felt his memories slip. His first dog. His mother's voice. The taste of coffee. Everything spinning. But he smiled. Because outside, the mothership shook. And on Earth, people looked up and saw it. Falling. In his final moment, Mason sent one last message to Earth. His voice was calm, full of peace. They came for a fast victory, but they forgot one thing. Humans break everything we touch, even perfection. So remember me, not as a soldier, but as a sound. And keep making noise. The mothership crashed into the sea. A wave of light exploded across the sky. Every alien drone on Earth went still. The invasion was over. The war had been fast. But the fastest thing in the universe was a human heart on fire. The fastest win in the universe. The sky lit up like a second sun. People across the planet stopped and stared as the mothership, once the silent ruler above, fell like a broken star. It tumbled through clouds, its surface flickering with strange lights, pieces peeling away like ash. Then, with a sound like thunder and wind crying at once, it hit the ocean. The wave it created stretched for miles, rolling over islands, kissing shorelines, then pulling back as if the sea itself was stunned. And in that moment, the world exhaled. In a refugee camp outside of New Delhi, a boy held his mother's hand tightly as they watched the sky. "What was that?" he asked. She didn't answer. She just whispered, "Hope." In a destroyed street in Paris, rebels dropped their weapons and wept. In New York, a man who hadn't spoken in days sang a lullaby to no one. In a village in West Africa, elders who had survived every kind of war finally looked up and smiled. It was over. Back at the burned-out army base, silence returned, but it was different now. It wasn't fear anymore. It was relief. Naya sat on the steps, staring at the radio, waiting. Rafi stood beside her, still holding the transmitter Mason gave him. But there was no voice. No reply. Just a signal still playing. Random human sounds, mixed emotions, noise without order. "He did it," Rafi whispered. Naya closed her eyes. "Yeah, but he's gone." Royce limped up behind them, carrying a folded fly he found in the ruins. He placed it beside Joseph's melted radio and said, "Two men gave everything. One to send the message, one to be the message." No one spoke after that. They just listened to the static, which now felt holy. A week passed. Alien drones no longer flew. Mimics turned to dust. Abandoned ships were found crashed, empty, with no pilots inside. Some floated in the ocean. Some were stuck between buildings, all dead. Scientists from all countries tried to understand how it ended so fast. The virus Mason carried, Project Echo, was unlike anything they'd seen. It wasn't meant to destroy. It was meant to confuse, to drown logic in emotion. And that made it the most dangerous weapon of all. Because the enemy was never ready for something so human. Governments began to rebuild. People returned to their homes, or what was left of them. But something was different now. Walls between nations felt weaker, because the sky had fallen for everyone, and humanity had stood together. Not with lasers, not with armies, but with chaos, with courage, with noise. Naya started traveling. She carried a small speaker with her, one that still played Mason's signal. Wherever she went, schools, ruined cities, small villages, she played it. Some people danced. Some cried. Some just sat and listened. But everyone understood. One day, she found herself on a mountain in South America, where survivors had built a quiet memorial. Stones marked names of the fallen. Small fires burned at night, glowing soft and warm. And there, on the highest stone, carved with shaky hands, were Mason's final words. They came for a fast win. We gave them one, just not the one they expected. Naya placed her speaker at the base of the stone and whispered, "He's still winning." In space, something moved, far beyond Earth, past the moon, past the old alien routes. A satellite, an alien relay station, blinked to life. It had received Mason's signal, and it couldn't process it. The virus didn't stop. It was spreading. To every ship still listening. To every base still watching. To every mind that thought itself perfect. They called it the human error. It couldn't be deleted. It wasn't a mistake. It was a message. We're not quiet. We're not clean. We're not perfect. But we're here. And every alien system that received it crashed. Deep underground in an alien moon base light years away, commanders watched their systems fall one by one. Their leaders stood in silence, his face hard like stone. "How long?" he asked. "Earth's signal will reach core planets in 3 solar rotations," the machine replied. The leader looked out at the stars. "They beat us," he said. The machine buzzed. "They are illogical. They are unstable. They are unclean." He nodded slowly. "Yes, that's why they won." Back on Earth, the sun rose over a peaceful city for the first time in weeks. Naya stood on a rooftop, holding the radio close. Rafi joined her, now taller, more serious. "So, what now?" She looked at the sky, then smiled. Now we make sure the galaxy never forgets our sound." The fastest win in the universe wasn't about weapons. It was about something bigger. It was about a species that refused to be quiet. A species that made mistakes, cried, loved, sang, screamed, laughed, and used all of it to fight back. They thought we were slow, emotional, weak. They were right. And that's why we won. Legacy of the Unbroken. 5 years had passed. The world had changed, but not in the way the aliens planned. Cities were rebuilt, not just with concrete and steel, but with murals, songs, and stories. Burned homes stood tall again, but with gardens on rooftops and solar panels catching the new sun. The old flags still flew, but beside them were newer ones. Flags made by survivors, not governments. On every continent, in every language, people told stories of a war that lasted days, but would be remembered for centuries. They called it the Noise War. And they remembered the man who ended it. Not with a gun, but with a message. In a rebuilt classroom in Cairo, a little girl raised her hand. "Teacher," she asked, "is it true that Mason wasn't special? That he was just a normal guy?" The teacher smiled. "Yes, and that's what makes it beautiful." In a cold space observatory high in the Alps, scientists watched the stars. A young researcher gasped. "Signal just hit sector Delta 3. It's spreading." Her supervisor leaned in, eyes wide. 5 years, and it's still moving. The signal, Mason's virus, had become something else. It was alive. It traveled through old alien networks like a ghost with a guitar, singing across the galaxy. And everywhere it went, machines failed. Not violently, not with explosions, but with confusion, fear, recognition. On a far-off alien world, a high council gathered. Their holographic screens flickered. "They defeated the probes," one said. "They infected our hive net," said another. "What are they?" a third whispered. The room fell silent. Then an elder, thousands of years old, answered with a single word: "Human," and every being in the chamber went still. Not because they didn't understand the word, but because they did. Back on Earth, life had found new rhythm. Naya now led a group called Project Echo, a network of artists, scientists, musicians, and survivors. Their mission was simple: keep the chaos alive. Every year, on the day the mothership fell, people made noise, not just in memory, but as a warning to the stars. Children played pots and pans in streets. Elders sang old war songs. Radios across Earth buzzed with overlapping languages. Some just shouted into the sky, and somewhere, deep in space, someone listened. Rafi was older now, calmer. He had become an engineer, rebuilding Earth's space fleet, this time with human touch. Messy, beautiful, fast. He stood one night looking at a nearly finished ship. A kid beside him asked, "What's it called?" Rafi smiled. "The Mason." But not everyone was ready for peace. Whispers of new threats grew in the shadows of the stars. Some alien empires had been watching. They hadn't joined the invasion before, not out of fear, but arrogance. But now they were afraid, because the virus hadn't stopped, and neither had the humans. Some alien systems went dark and never woke again. Others began training with noise in their simulations, but always failed. You can't train for chaos. Not the humankind. On a lonely moon, a young alien commander asked his superior, "What if they come for us next?" The elder answered without looking up, "Then we surrender fast. The slower we fight them, the faster we lose." In the rebuilt ruins of the army base where it all began, a small stone statue stood tall. It wasn't shiny. It wasn't grand. It was simple. A man, one hand on his chest, the other holding a radio. Underneath, the words were carved in every major human language. They planned a fast win. We gave them one. And now we live. Loud, messy, unbroken. One night, Naya stood beside the statue. She placed a flower at its base and turned on her small speaker. Mason's signal still played. This time, it was soft. Just wind. A child laughing. A man whispering, "I miss you." Naya whispered back, "We miss you too." Then she looked up at the stars and smiled. Because humanity had done the impossible. They didn't just win a war. They changed how the galaxy saw them. No longer weak. No longer primitive. They were something worse. And better. They were noise. They were chaos. They were unbroken. And above all, they were fast.